This is the problem with guerrilla warfare. You rarely see the force destroying you until it decides to attack. So we'll break down how smaller forces use terrain, structure, and tactics to survive against stronger opponents, the historical groups that mastered it best, and the mistakes that get these forces wiped out. Terrain is your first weapon and sometimes your best one. Jungle and forest force vehicles onto roads while cutting visibility, and air support struggles beneath dense canopy. You know the ground, while they move through terrain that slows, confuses, and exhausts them. Mountains squeeze movement into valleys, ridgelines, and passes, where a small force watching one route can shape everything moving through it. Altitude, weather, and distance slow every response and complicate support. Cities break formations apart and enemy vehicles become vulnerable. Large units become fragmented and every building becomes cover, concealment, and another obstacle to clear. Terrain creates predictable routes because people usually choose the easiest path, whether that is the dry trail, the gap between hills, or the shallow crossing. That is where choke points and traps should be built. You never choose ground only because it offers a firing position, you choose ground that also gives you an exit. If you must cross open space to leave, it is bad ground. Avoid fighting in open ground whenever possible, because that is where larger forces dominate. Fight where terrain narrows their options, limits their firepower, and works in your favor. You cannot match them head-on, so you never fight on their terms. Do not seek to destroy the army in open battle. Instead, pressure what keeps it operating. Supply lines, fuel, communications, isolated positions, and the constant need to secure territory. The city may stay under their control, but holding it becomes dangerous, slow, and expensive. When they send a column to find you, you do not fight it. You spot it early, move, and disappear. The column searches empty ground and returns home. You are back elsewhere the next night. Drones have changed guerrilla warfare more than any other development in the last decade, acting as both your biggest threat and one of your most useful tools. A force with drones overhead can watch your movement and direct strikes before you realize what is happening. Open ground becomes far more dangerous, movement in groups carries higher risk, and staying in one place or following predictable routes makes you easier to find and fix. Your counter is overhead cover whenever you are static, whether that is netting, trees, or building overhangs that break your visual and thermal signature from above. Move in short bursts and keep your element dispersed so a single drone cannot hit multiple people. When you are exposed, assume you are being observed. Even a basic commercial drone gives you reconnaissance without exposing your people. You can confirm convoy timing before an ambush, check routes before committing to them, and observe a target area over time to understand patterns without anyone getting close. Drones can also be used against vehicles or fixed positions, meaning an ambush now doesn't need to carry any risk from your side and is possible anywhere at any time. One limitation is that conventional forces often carry electronic warfare systems, so your drone can be jammed or even taken over without warning, and you need to factor that risk into how you use it. Quick note, the store below has the digital download with structured breakdowns and visual references for this series. Patreon includes that plus bonus footage for every video and early access. Now continuing. In a guerrilla unit, every fighter knows two things at all times: the objective and the rally point. That is what allows the mission to continue even if leadership is removed or communication breaks down. There is no dependence on continuous direction from headquarters. Radio use is limited because transmissions can be tracked and exploited, so coordination is based on a plan agreed before movement begins, with execution left to initiative on the ground. This is done to make the unit faster and harder to stop. Decisions do not move up and down a chain of command. They are made directly where contact happens. For that reason, operations are built around small cells that function independently within a wider intent. Each cell understands its task, what it is allowed to do, and where it can fall back to, so it can keep operating even when separated from the rest of the force. If contact is made and the leader is lost, control transfers immediately to the next fighter without hesitation or delay. If the primary rally point becomes compromised, the alternate is already known and used without discussion. Each cell only knows what it needs to know. In most cases, that means they only know their own team and the person directly above them, nothing more. If someone is captured, they cannot reveal anything beyond their own small section, because they were never given access to the wider picture. Even in that situation, the rest of the force keeps operating normally, because no single person holds enough information to affect the entire system. Now a few historical examples, each showing a different core principle of guerrilla warfare. Viet Cong environmental cover. During the Vietnam War, the Americans owned the sky, so the Viet Cong moved underground. Tunnel networks held living quarters, hospitals, and daily life, with entrances being concealed. Without detection, firepower had little effect. Afghanistan, convoy traps. In the Soviet-Afghan War, convoys moved through narrow terrain. Front vehicle hit, back vehicle hit, stopping the entire exposed column. With no room to maneuver, vehicles are engaged from elevated positions. Terrain fixes the target in place. Spain, population resistance. During the Peninsular War, Napoleon held territory but faced constant attacks on supply lines and isolated units. Civilians provided information, shelter, and recruits to guerrilla fighters. Movement became slow and costly. Control of the population was never secured. Ireland, fragmented cell network. The Provisional Irish Republican Army operated in small cells with strict separation between groups. Members usually only knew their own cell, limiting what any capture could expose. Each unit stood alone, so even if one was compromised, the rest of the network stayed hidden. You do not rely on a distant supply chain. Your primary source of equipment is the enemy. After an ambush, you quickly take what you can carry. Weapons, ammunition, medical supplies, batteries, anything useful, meaning whatever their enemy was resupplying becomes your resupply. Standardize your gear to match what the enemy carries. If your weapons fire the same ammunition as theirs, every contact is a potential resupply. If your kit matches their kit, you can use their stockpiles, their spare parts, and their caches. What you cannot carry, you cache. Bury it, mark the location, come back for it later. What you cannot cache, you destroy. You never leave usable equipment behind for them to recover. It's practical and it degrades their supply calculations. Every piece of kit you capture is a piece they have to replace, transport, and account for. Remember that you have to play tactically. You do not actually need to destroy much. One explosive on a secondary road does not need to destroy a vehicle. It needs to be found. Once that road is marked compromised, it gets closed. The alternate route needs clearing. Clearing needs engineers, escorts, time, and fuel. A device that cost almost nothing triggered a response worth 100 times more. 10 fighters attack a power station. They damage it and leave. Now the conventional force has to guard every power station in the region 24/7. 10 fighters just tied down 500 troops in static security roles. Those troops are standing at checkpoints. They are not patrolling and finding you. Cheap move, expensive response. Engineer this every time. Now, where all this usually falls apart. Attacking on incomplete intelligence. Your withdrawal route must be confirmed, not estimated. The response arrives faster than expected, and now there is nowhere to escape. Never attack on estimated intelligence. Establishing patterns. Same safe house for 6 weeks. Same route to the meeting. Same timing every time. Rotate before you think you need to. Breaking security. A fighter tells a family member. That person tells someone they do not realize they should not trust. The cell is compromised before it fires a shot. Never give a civilian your real name or tonight's location. Hitting hard targets for the wrong reasons. A fortified position has been irritating your area for months. Your cell decides to take it on. The fight takes longer than planned, casualties are higher than expected, and the response is overwhelming. Ego and frustration are not target selection criteria. Fighting conventionally too soon. You control territory, the population supports you, the force is stretched. Within weeks your positions are destroyed. The moment you stop moving, you become a target they are perfectly equipped to destroy. Losing the population. The population is logistics, intelligence, and early warning. Without it, concealment breaks and movement becomes exposed. It erodes through actions that add up over time until safe movement no longer exists. Alright, thanks for watching. Bonus scenarios, early access, and more are on Patreon. Maps and guides are also available in the store below.